The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
So what does starting on the path to embracing simplicity look like? It looks like pausing to consider what ignites your passion and what deserves a spot in your life. I love that phrase. What deserves a spot in your life? It's about identifying the things that resonate with you and the things that, well, quite frankly, do not. Embracing simplicity means consciously choosing where to invest your time and energy, ensuring they flow toward activities that fill your cup to the brim. There are areas and parts you will share with your family, friends, kids, parents, and others, but there are parts of embracing simplicity that must be all about you and what makes you happy. For example, embracing simplicity can be decluttering your home or office environment. All right, that was not Ray DAI. That was me trying to read an excerpt from the book, and I've got a little funny story about that. So I was going through, well, it's not really the final edit, but it's like the second final edit where I need to just kind of eyeball everything and make sure it kind of is flowing nicely and is formatted nicely. And that's funny. I got to the chapter that talked about staying shallow, which really kind of centers around embracing simplicity and all that. And there was that section, I only read you a little part of it, but it talked about decluttering and, just taking a more minimalist view on things. And this is hilarious. I've been wanting to declutter my garage forever. I've just got too much stuff in there. And literally after reading that chapter, reading that little segment that I was supposed to be kind of, proofreading, I put that on pause. It was garbage day today. And so I literally ended up for almost an hour last night at 7 o'clock at night, basically just throwing out a bunch of crap that's been in my garage. And it's things that, I thought I liked and needed, but I realized I don't even look at these things. Like stuff from, 15 years ago that's been through maybe 2 or 3 moves with me. And it's like, what the heck? What am I doing with this stuff? Who cares? I had this is actually funny. I had this Gladiator helmet. Remember the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe? It's an amazing movie. It's actually one of my favorite movies ever. But anyway, when I was at Universal Studios, when I worked at Universal Studios, and a quick shout out to Lisa Streff, I know you're listening. Lisa and I worked together at Universal Studios during this time, and she is wonderful. So anyway, Lisa, tell Rick to get those steaks ready. Let's fire those up sometime. Okay, anyway, so at Universal, we represented the Gladiator movie because it was a Universal Pictures movie. And so we did a bunch of licensing deals for it. And what licensing is, if you don't understand that, is it's basically when you take the intellectual property that you own, and instead of making the stuff yourself, you go find other companies that make that stuff and you license them the rights to use your intellectual property. So in this case, we licensed this company the ability to use the props from Gladiator. So you remember that helmet Russell Crowe wore where it was it was a badass helmet. It was really, really awesome, actually. It was I don't even know how to describe it, but if you've ever seen Gladiator, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, I had a replica of that helmet, and I'm not kidding. I've had that thing for 20-something years. It's made several moves with me, and it was in my garage sitting on top of my refrigerator, and literally last night I threw that thing away. Lisa's probably going to kill me, but yeah, I threw that thing away because I'm like, well, I put it to recycle. Because honestly, I'm like, what the hell do I need this thing for? I literally do not need this thing for. I mean, I took some funny pictures back in the day with my dad. I actually have some hilarious pictures of my dad wearing the Gladiator helmet. And then I do have the complimentary gladiator sword. Now I kept that. That thing's kind of badass. And so anyway, I threw that thing away along with a bunch of other, again, knickknacks and like memorabilia. And what's hilarious is it was all because of reading that passage in my book that's coming out. And so I thought I'd share that with you guys. I don't even know why I'm sharing that, but anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. And it literally has now made me committed to basically every week, as I've got room in my trash and recycling bins, I'm just going to start to tackle things little by little and almost do like some serious spring cleaning that really I know will make me feel better, because I do love that minimalist look with everything. But I don't know, I guess we're just gatherers by nature to an extent. And so I am really gonna break that habit. And you know what? The fact that my own book kind of propelled me to do that makes me actually hopeful that when it comes out, and if you are so inclined to get it and read it, maybe it'll make you do stuff like that. Seriously. You know, what's cool about the book, and man, I'm really excited about it. I really am, is that it is definitely not, politically driven, not as much as, gosh, this podcast has been, but it really is all about, how to develop a more authentic relationship with yourself. And kind of like the things I was talking about yesterday, I mean, I really want to try and, I decided to supplement. I'm not going to replace anything, but I really do want to try and supplement the, the current news and even the historical stuff that we talk about. I want to supplement that stuff with, more introspective stuff to get conversations going, even more conversations going, introspective stuff about life and what's going on. And, those absolutely can tie into, the current events and things like that. But even if they don't tie into the current events, I think that, part of what I hope to foster is really a community in Deep Shallow Dive that kind of helps each other, and that kind of, helps each other basically navigate what we're going to navigate the next 6 months. Because I do think, I really do. I think that it's going to be a little bit of a rocky road. I hope I'm wrong with all that. I really do. I hope it's smooth sailing from here on out, but I don't think that's going to be the case based on 2020. It's based on 2020. 2020 to me was a year that was almost like, that wake up call of a year. And I really, really think, people haven't realized how much that year and all the things that took place have changed the world and probably affected you in ways that, maybe you're not even fully cognizant of, but it definitely has. I know it did with me, and it for sure took some time to adjust. I'll give you a perfect example. I absolutely didn't mind the slowing down pace of life that all of the COVID restrictions basically brought forth. Now, maybe things were different in California, Los Angeles in particular, New York, some of the major cities, I think, were not only the hotbeds for COVID, but they were under the microscope, and there was so much scrutiny going on with things. But it really did slow down the pace of life, and, it made you feel okay to stay in your house. It made you feel okay not to be doing stuff all the time, whether that's during the week or on the weekends. I wasn't really doing that much during the week, although, yeah, I was going to a lot of happy hours. I'll tell you that. Anyway, I didn't mind it as I was going through it. 2020, 2021. Honestly, it was kind of I was like, all right, this is a nice little break. But I will tell you, it kind of made me a hermit a little bit. It really did. And I realized that in 2023, I realized that I never really fully recovered, let's say, from, I don't know, that feeling that it's okay not to, be my regular social self, and for lack of a better way of putting it. And so, I definitely, like, prior to COVID, I can honestly say most days I got up, thank God, but I would, shower, get dressed because I'd have meetings, I'd have, things to do outside of the house. And so I would throw on the vest or the suit. I wasn't really wearing suspenders back then. I have embraced the suspenders now, but, I'd throw on the suit, I'd throw on my vest because I'd have a meeting, and, you'd kind of be in work mode like that. And now, because of what we all experienced in COVID, honestly, I've never really bounced back from that. And I know that because my dry cleaning bill is basically down 90% from what it used to be. I mean, holy mackerel. I guess that's somewhat of a positive. But even when we came out of everything, and really, I think 2023, we came out of everything. 2022, God, it's hard to even remember the differences in years. But I think there was still some remnant stuff, at least in the beginning part of 2022. But 2023, we absolutely came out of everything. And so, life should have been back to normal. But I never really got back there. I really haven't. I never really, bounced back to that, I guess, the way I was before COVID, where I, at least 3 or 4 days a week, I absolutely, I guess for lack of a better way to say it, was getting dressed instead of being in, my, I don't want to say, I actually, it's funny. Even when I work from home, I get up and I do get dressed and I put shoes on. I literally put, like, I'm not talking sandals or slippers or anything. I literally put actual shoes on, tennis shoes in this case. And even when I work from home, I kind of am in attire that could lend itself to, leaving immediately and going out and being fine. But, I'm definitely not wearing a suit as much as I used to, and dress shirts and ties and all that stuff. And again, like I said, I know that because when I see my dry cleaning bills in my QuickBooks, and when I reconcile everything, it's like, holy mackerel, that is a significant savings in terms of that stuff. And again, I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I mean, I think it's good to some extent, but I think it's bad to some extent as well, and I think that, we've never really, in many ways, bounced back in some regards to kind of the change in life that we experienced through COVID. And so, I guess a theme of the book really does talk about that, although it doesn't get into any of the nuances in terms of, I guess the whatever about it. It's more the mindset and, that change in, change in lifestyle to an extent. Really, that really was what it caused. And obviously now you've got a lot of companies that are mandating people go back to the office. Commercial real estate's been crushed. So I think a lot of that is aimed to bring that back. And I'll say, even for myself, even though I do still kind of do the home office thing, aside from when I'm, visiting my contract manufacturers or whatever, I'm even thinking about kind of getting some executive space somewhere and just kind of mixing it up a little bit to have a change of pace. And I think what happened last night when I read that passage in the book that I was, supposed to just be proofreading, I don't know, it stirred something up in me. And I was like, you know what? trash day tomorrow, I am literally going to dump out a bunch of crap in my garage. And honestly, it felt great. It really did. And I'll tell you, it felt great this morning when I went into my garage to leave the house. And I was like, oh my God, I noticed it. I genuinely noticed the decluttered look, and it gave me some joy. It really did. It gave me some small joy. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Oh my God, my garage looks great. Anyway, I don't know why the heck I shared all that, but I think it's part of kind of what I really do want to do moving forward with this podcast is, talk about even talking about current events in a way that can be beneficial. And I'll give you a perfect example on that. I've had this happen a few times now, and people don't know how to talk about what's going on in Israel and Palestine. Obviously, I've talked a lot about it on this podcast, but in real life, those are hard conversations to have. And I'm not even talking about having them with my Jewish friends, like I'm talking about, or my Muslim friends. I'm talking about just anybody, right? Nobody really knows how to broach that topic and do it in a way that, doesn't go from 0 to 60 in, 1.2 seconds and create anger. Do it in a way where we're just talking about it and we're able to, first of all, express our feelings about it, maybe learn a little bit from each other, and just not feel, I don't know if the word is ashamed, but it's more like not feel hesitant. That's the word. Hesitant to talk about what's going on over there. Or, here's another one. And I think this has been the case politically with Trump and Biden. I mean, those two guys, Trump and Biden, even talking about your feelings on their stances or what's going on with them, that's even sometimes difficult to broach those subjects because you don't really know where maybe the other side stands politically. And those topics are so divisive and they are so just inflammatory that, we don't really have the tools or the understanding of how to bring these topics up. And that's another part of the book that really is something I'm gonna really try and bring out on this podcast is, using the deep, shallow dive methodology of going deep, staying shallow, diving in, and then also these 4 pillars, which I've talked about previously. And I really need to start, I guess, winding these into more of these current events. But, these pillars being self-awareness, authenticity, resilience, and empathy, those things, when you start to break down certain situations, whether it's Israel, Palestine, whether it's Trump, Biden, whether it's the bridge collapse, whether it's whatever, I really think they can become almost like a, what's the word? I want to say toolkit, toolbox. They can almost become, I guess it's really is a methodology and tools to enable you to talk about everything. I truly do feel like, unfortunately, because of it's really the visceral nature of social media. It really is. It's like, I love apples. What? You love apples? Oh my God, you don't love bananas? You don't love oranges? You're a fruit racist. That's ridiculous. I can't believe you said you love apples. I mean, that's social media right now. That is seriously social media. And that's caused people to not want to talk about the controversial stuff in person. And And again, I don't think that's good. I really don't, because fundamentally, when we're not having those conversations in real life, they're getting buried inside you, and they also are, potentially manifesting in a negative way into other things. And I'll give you another example, and then I will wrap up this diatribe that I went on today. But the stuff going on in Israel and Palestine. I mean, if you've paid attention to that, and if you've looked at really the horror, I mean, the absolute horror of the Palestinian people and what's happened. I mean, it was, again, on Tuesday, they fired a missile on a humanitarian food aid truck. And I'll talk more about this in tomorrow's episode. But anyway, clearly labeled. I mean, it was like they had flags coming out of every part of this car. There was nothing about it that screamed anything besides, hey, we are humanitarians and we are providing food to people that are starving. And they fired a missile on it. And it killed a lot of people. I think it killed nine people, right? When you're seeing those images, let's say first thing in the morning, man, it really kind of puts you in a bad place. It does. It puts you in a bad place when that's the first thing you're seeing. Let's say when you wake up and you look at your phone, or if the morning news is on as you're getting ready or whatever, seeing such horror every day, which has been kind of the case for the past 5 months to start the day, that's also not putting people in a good place. And I think that part of what I aim to do is, see if I can help kind of use the methodology and really just use the information that I think can be conveyed. I don't know, to see if I can help people kind of be not comfortable. I don't think you can get comfortable with that stuff, but at least deal with it a little bit better. So anyway, holy mackerel, I literally covered nothing that I wanted to cover today. But you know what? That's okay, because this is part of the growth of this podcast, which I hope you are into. Again, I got a lot of good feedback yesterday about directions. There is a survey on the Spotify episode from yesterday you can fill out. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to me, in any way you want on social media. If you know me, I'm sure you have my number. Text me, call me, whatever. And we're gonna figure this all out. We are absolutely gonna figure this all out, because like I said, I think the road is going to get bumpier over the next 6 months. I hope I'm totally wrong about that. But regardless, I think we can absolutely, build some skill sets that, can help us deal with that in case that is true. All right, everybody, call a spade a spade. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll catch up with you soon.
The ending was terrific.
This episode is being brought to you by the upcoming book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You. That's right. Bro wrote a book, and it's coming soon. Stay tuned.